Hey guys, and welcome to the Luke's Life. My name's Chelsea, and today I'm going to be doing the 10 baby girl names we love but will not be using tag. This video was actually due to be up Saturday, and I have an excuse, okay? I have a good reason. I have decided to change my uploading schedule on this channel. I am going to be uploading Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And instead of uploading as late as I am right now, I'm hoping to upload earlier on in the day. I do film, edit, and upload all on the same day. That is why the two videos I've got on this channel have gone up so late in the day. But from here on out, I'm going to start trying to post them earlier and get them out there for you. Oddly enough, the 10 baby girl names were a lot harder to come up with than the 10 baby boy names. And the reason for that is because I've always saw myself as having a little boy first. I do want to have 4 kids, and if I could pick, I wanted 3 boys and 1 girl. Currently, I don't have any, so after I have my first one, I might be like, I don't want 4 no more. But right now, I want 4, and that's the gender that I would prefer to have is 3 boys and 1 girl. And I know that I can't pick. I know they're going to come out however they're going to come out. But in my heart and in my mind, that's how it's going to happen. And I could 120% eat those words. I probably will if you want to know the truth. But that's why it was so much harder for me to pick girl names. Because in my head, I only want 1 girl. Just 1. Because chances are they're going to turn out like me. And Lord knows, I'm going to get my payback. Ooh, Janice. I am the only child, and one of my mother's biggest wishes in life is for me to have a daughter exactly like me. And don't get me wrong, I was not a bad kid. I've never done drugs, drank, stayed out and partied. I was never that kid. I was just, it wasn't even when I was a kid. It was more when I hit like teenage years, because I was a pretty good little kid. My mom will even vouch for that one. But when I got to like 13 and my attitude started coming out, I thought I knew it all. Lord Jesus, I don't think there is any one human being on the planet Earth that didn't go through that phase. So I'll probably go through that with boys too. But I can just feel that when I have a little girl, it's going to be that much worse. I can just feel it because she's going to be just like mama. I know it. So that's why I only want 1 of them. And I want her to come after the 3 boys so that if she does do anything or anybody tries to mess with her, she got 3 older brothers and a daddy and 1 psycho mama. So that's the reason I want them in that order. In case y'all were wondering, you probably weren't, but you know I like to ramble. So here we are. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on into these names. Otherwise, I'm going to stay here for a year. Let's go. So the first baby girl name that I absolutely love but will not be using is Clary, and this is how I'll spell it. Because, again, I am a very unique human being when it comes to trying to spell my children's names. I love the weird spellings. I love anything unique and different, and that was the reason I loved the name Clary. I haven't really heard any kids being named that, but it is a very popular lead in a TV show name. And that TV show is Shadowhunters, and it comes on Freeform. And the lead in that, her name is Clary. There was also a movie that came out called Immortal Instruments City of Bones, I think was the name. It came out a couple of years ago. It had Lily Collins as the main character, and her name was Clary. Obviously, they're the same. It's the same story, only that was the movie, and this is a TV series, and they're both based off of the books. And it has become a more popular TV series, and I just know that since it is such a pretty name, eventually it will become pretty popular. And for some reason, when names kind of hit like a TV series type deal, I'm not a big fan of naming my kid that. So, unfortunately, I will not be naming my child Clary just because it has now become a pretty popular name on a TV show. Some people would disagree and still name their kid that. I'm not one of those people, and that's okay. Still a pretty name. But the second baby girl name I love but will not be using is Keely. It is also spelled pretty unique because, like I said, that's just who I am as a person. I can't help it. So the reason I decided not to name my daughter Keely is because here recently, in the past couple of years, names that end in L-E-I-G-H have become extremely popular. You have Haley, Keely, Kaylee, Brayley, Brinley, McKinley, things like that. They all end in that Lee, and they might not all end in L-E-I-G-H, but they end in Lee, and you can spell it that way if you want to. So that's a big reason why I decided not to name my daughter Keely, because it's just kind of trendy right now. The third baby girl name that I absolutely love but will not be using is Thea. And the reason for that is one of my favorite TV shows is Arrow. And if you watch Arrow, it comes on the CW. And the reason I will not be naming my kid Thea is because his little sister is named Thea. And every time I think of that name, I see her. While she is a kick hind end character, I couldn't name my daughter that, because every time I think of that name, I think of her, and I want my daughter to be unique. Like, I want her, when I look at her, I want to see her. I don't want to be like, ooh, there's that character from Arrow. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? No? Okay, whatever. The fourth baby girl name I absolutely love but will not be using is Ellie. And a lot of names like Eloise or Eleanor, things like that. And the reason I say Eleanor is one of my mom's students' daughters has a little girl who is absolutely gorgeous. Her name is Eleanor and they call her Ellie. She is the cutest kid. She's a twin, so she's one of the two cutest kids I've ever seen in my entire life. And I absolutely think that her name fits perfectly for her. Oh my God, I could just gush over that kid. Anyway, sidetracked. But that name Ellie has become extremely popular here recently. She's got her child who's named that, and then a couple other of my friends have named their kids Ellie. It's not a shortened version of anything, but they've just flat out named their kid Ellie. Another version of that is like Ella. It's become really popular here recently too, because I had picked that name out too. So instead of just making a whole separate one, I'm going to put Ellie and Ella together. And that's the reason I won't be using those names, is that they've become pretty popular around here. Speaking of baby girl names that have become extremely popular here recently within the past couple of years, brings me to my fourth baby name that I love but will not be using, and that is McKenna. I don't know what happened. I loved that name. Next thing I knew, everybody and their grandmother was naming their kid that. So while I absolutely love that name, I don't want my daughter to be one of like 1,200 McKennas. The fifth baby girl name I love but will not be using, sadly, is kind of a spin on the name Olivia. I love the name Olive. And the reason that I will not be using the name Olive is because my husband said no. He's like very kind of perplexed, thinking, I don't like the olives. Like, I'm not an olive fan. He's not an olive fan. He said every time he thinks of our daughter, he doesn't want to think of something you put in a martini. So while I absolutely love that name, my husband was like, no, not happening. But the sixth baby girl name that I love but will not be using is Willow. And the reason for that is because Pink had a little girl and named her Willow. And I don't want people thinking that I named my child after Pink, because we are big Pink fans in this house. Like extreme Pink fans in this house. Extreme. And I just don't want people who know that we're extreme Pink fans to think I named my daughter after her daughter. That makes sense? Okay. The seventh baby girl name I absolutely love but will not be using is kind of tied into the McKenna type deal, but it's McKinley. And the reason I will not be using that one is because it also spiked in popularity. But come to find out, one of my family members, who is a male, was named McKinley, and we called him Ken. I never met him. He was an older man. He passed away before I was even born, I believe. But his name was McKinley as well, and I don't want to name my daughter after one of our family members that's passed away. I feel some type of way about that, you all. So I know people who name their kids after their great-grandparents or their grandparents, and that's a different thing. But this is a family member that I never met and didn't know. So I just don't feel like that's something I would want to name my daughter, because I have a feeling that if I did that, I would get like 100 of my family members being like, oh, did you know you had a cousin named McKinley? We called him Ken and he died. Like, I would get that. Trust me. I would get that. The eighth baby girl name that I love but will not be using is Italia. Not Talia, but Italia. And the reason for that is my husband just wasn't a big fan of it. He said it's a beautiful name. He just didn't really see us ever calling our daughter that. And that was that. That was pretty much the end of that name for me, even though I love it. I'm not going to just look at my husband and be like, we gonna name my kid whatever I want to. I want him to genuinely love it too. And if he couldn't envision our daughter being named that, then that's just not what we're going to name her. The ninth baby girl name that I absolutely love but will not be using is Emerson. And the reason for that is because it has 100% spiked in popularity where I live. I don't know if it's spiked in popularity anywhere else, but I think 3 to 4 girls that I went to high school with have named their children Emerson. And while I only ever see these kids on Facebook, they have me as a friend, I have them as a friend. I know what they named their daughters. And I'm just the type of person that if that many people on my timeline have named their kids that I personally know back home, I'm not naming my daughter that. I 100% love that name. You could short her name to Emmy. I just love that name. But like I said, 4, I think probably 5 people that I know have named their kids that within the past 2.5 years. So that's why I wouldn't name her Emerson. The 10th baby girl name I love but will not be using is actually even more unusual than I normally go with. And I say unusual, but it's just not one of those names that I would see me picking. And it just recently grew on me. And my husband absolutely 100% said, no way, Jose, to that one. So the name is actually Clementine. And me personally, I've never really been drawn to that name as a name to pick. But here recently, I've just been like, oh my God, I really like that name. I could see her being a little girl, a young woman, and an older woman. And my husband went, I could see her being somebody else's little girl. And I was like, okay, so you don't like it? He said, it's not that he doesn't like it. He's just not fond of it. But he said he just wasn't drawn to that name, so that's why we're not going to pick that name for our daughter. And that brings us to the end of the 10 baby girl names that I absolutely love but will not be using. I will be putting up Wednesday the 10 gender neutral names that we love but will not be using. So if you want to know when I upload that, you can subscribe to stick around and also hit that little bell which will notify you when I do upload a video. If you liked this video, give it a big thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys.